Okay, so I am going to do this last mini astronumerology reading, and I'm going to do some highlights because when I was actually studying, learning the astrology and reading charts, we covered a lot of people, and we covered a lot of, it's a Indian astrology, it's Vedic astrology. So the charts were not necessarily American charts. And then there were some American charts, but they were like really famous people and things of that nature, but not into some of the details. And of course, it wasn't astronumerology. So when I merged the astrology and numerology together, there's some other key things that I discovered within the charts that other astronumerologists may have discovered, may not have discovered, but in my brand of astronumerology, I just find these extra little gems. So I wanted to look at Martin Luther King Jr. since his name has come up recently. And this is by no means the complete data on him. This is a mini version. Now, Martin Luther King Jr. was born Michael King Jr., date of birth January 15th, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia. We have his time listed at 12 noon. That was the time that was listed, but I don't know if that's because I got that from an astrology platform and they did not know his date of birth and they defaulted to the 12 noon, which is what a lot of astrologers do, or if that was verified somewhere. It did not say verified. So we're going with that. So some of the information might be a little off. The time of death is on, right? So his life path is a one, which is a leader, right? A person who brings people into a new direction, a revolutionary, okay? And his attitude is seven. So he comes across as a spiritual, religious person, right? Because the seven are introspective, they're spiritual, they're reserved, they come across at that kind of energy. That's the energy that he gives off to people. The date of birth is a six, but it's a 15-6. So this is the energy of a person who's interested in the family unit, relationships, humanity in the sense. And with the one, it is a person who's interested in taking that in a new direction, change and freedom. So a person who's bringing about change and freedom in a new direction. Okay. That's part of it. His year of birth is the three. The three is the communicator. So he came here with a skill at being able to articulate and communicate his ideas and get that message out to other people. So in numerology in general or anything, when you have karmic lack, like if you're lacking a three, then you might have a blockage in your throat chakra and may not be able to communicate as effectively. He came here with that already being highlighted. That's from the numerology portions of it. So great orator, right? And of course, we see speeches from him and different things that he said. Whether somebody wrote his speeches or not, his voice carried the message, and that was what was remembered, the power in his voice. Okay. So those are portions of his astronumerology. His date of death was April 4th, 1968. April 4 is 4-4. So 4-4 together is an eight attitude, which was a shift in power because in my astronumerology, the 44 is also a master number because it teaches us a lesson about power and money and hard work and dedication. And so that was an attitude shift with his date of death as far as the power, because it did pave the way for some other changes to occur. Okay. Now, the year of death was six. So, family changes, the family unit, the family structure, all of that started to change after his death. If you go back and pay attention to the history and things about the the family in the United States and the growth and demise and the marriage laws, you probably can do some correlations on your own time. Okay. All right. So that's the starting information for him. Some key things is that in his natal chart, in his how he makes money and his voice and his speaking and that kind of energy. Because for me, he is an Aries rising, which is a fiery presence of an energy. And then that means in his second house, he has the Taurus energy, which is a home energy, a hardworking energy. But in his ability to orate and speak and communicate and get messages out, he has Mars there and he has Rahu there. So, meaning he's able to deliver messages really well. And there's the fiery nature of it because it gets people riled up. It awakens something within people. And that's what his voice actually did. Now he has some energies and his hidden sexual energy there in his chart as well, which means he had some sexual exploits that showed up in his birth chart that most people don't talk about, but it's published data. So that energy was there from the beginning, right? So that energy causes some challenges with him. He has an unfortunate combination that I see with people who are assassinated and where they have that explosive energy that is somewhere in a connection to the Mars, because Mars is a violent, fighting energy, a battle, a war. You want Mars when you have a warrior, or you want Mars when you have an enemy and you want to overcome them. You want Mars when you need action for a plan. So he has this combination that often when I see that before I get too deep off into the chart, it's like, that combination means something violent is going to happen. And the violence doesn't always have to lead to their demise, but it leads to a shift in their life. Okay. So he has that in his chart. So right away, we knew there was going to be some issue. And then when I go into in a moment, when I start looking at how he makes his money, the way he makes his money is with the communication that takes place and being able to have people attracted to his voice and the way he communicates. And then he makes money also by movement and having the sun energy means that you're a leader and people are going to move when you move. And he did a lot of movements, a lot of marching, a lot of things of that nature. And then by being an innovator and at the time of and forming a tribe in his innovation. And at the time of when he was speaking and doing all of his different things, he formed tribes because he got masses of people together. When you look at that forming the tribes, the other thing you have to look at is that it is in an artistic way. So people were drawn to him because of a magnetism that he carried with him, and they didn't quite understand it. And a lot of women were drawn to him in this energy. And at this time, and that so he that was all part of how he earned money. And the other way that he earned money was through speaking on things that were different. And he earned money through secret relationships. That's what's in his chart. So, so that means that's there. That's what's in his chart. Okay. So that's it is what it is. All right. So then I looked at the date of death. And of course, on his date of death, he has that Mars energy, that Sun energy, that Rahu energy, that K2 energy, that Saturn energy, all this energy in this one part of his chart, which is an explosive energy just happening. And it's just bam, it all culminated to this one moment. But he also has secret energy. And his chart. So I said, okay, let me look a little bit further. So looking at the way he's scheduled to die, the most likely way for him to die would be he would have he would be speaking, and this is where it gets kind of interesting for me. He would be speaking in a place that is either going to be a motel, is considered a dirty place, a dwelling, a dirty dwelling. He was speaking at a motel. He was at an event where he was speaking at a hotel area of all things. But also, the other part is he would he would be in a public place to start with, but then he would be in a hospital type setting. So the story goes that he was assassinated at a motel. And of course, his place of death, the physical place of death, would be in a bed, by the way, because it's bed pleasures. And then on the day of his death, in the actual chart, in the section of the secret, it is in the government secret area, which you can draw your own thoughts, your own conclusions from that. And actually, the manner of death, I've heard lots of stories about he was shot, that killed him, someone smothered him, that killed him. And the manner of death, according to his chart, would be poison. It was an attack of an enemy in a poisonous manner. That's what comes up in his chart in a bed in a hospital setting. Or it says, when it says in a hospital institution setting, because the energy is hospitals, prisons, and institution like that all fall in the same category. And he just so happened to have been in a bed from what I've read. So that's the energy that was there on the day of his death, which brings out more evidence to the fact of perhaps he was had some dealings, some agreements with the government, and then the government and different factions of the government. I don't know which faction because that information isn't there in the chart. Were responsible for his death. He did not die at the assassination on the balcony. That is where the attempt occurred, and that is where the information is listed. But the actual death took place, and not that he just passed away from his wounds. It's actually someone went in and finished him off, and not that they smothered him, that they actually poisoned him and to finish him off. That's what's in the chart. Okay. But throughout all of that, everything that happened, his life caused change. So, very interesting. So, that's what I have for him. See you next time.